Um, Good afternoon, everyone. First meeting of the year. And so I still don't think it's too late to say Happy New Year since first time that I've talked to most of you. Happy New Year. Hope everything is going well. And we'll start off with intro with myself and Dan. Eric Jackson with Charles County, and then I'll turn it over to Dan for his intro.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Dan Lewis, Frederick County. Good to see you.
All right, so it seems like we have a pretty good agenda today, a pretty hefty agenda with some good topics to talk about. We have Ernst and Young with formability, I'm sorry, and Maryland One Stop. And so I'll go straight into Sarah Mason, who's the manager, and she has a wonderful team that she's going to introduce to all of us. So, Sarah, I will turn the floor over to you.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks all for having us here, and thank you, Eric, for coordinating. I am here I'm our project manager for One Stop Formability from Ernst and Young. We have representation here from SDAT tax credit programs as well as IT and some others from our team at EY. So let me share my screen. Okay. So today we want to go through a few pieces with you. We're going to focus on tax roll. So agenda point number one, just giving a summary of how formability is used for tax roll. We'll talk through workflow steps, both what we are doing to prepare ahead of tax roll and what happens in the system and across our team during tax roll. We'll talk through the core impact inputs that we will be requesting from you all through formability. And then I'll turn it over to Davina, who's one of our development leads, and she'll actually walk through how to complete each of these steps. We'll talk through next steps and upcoming due dates, points of contact if you have any questions, and then we'll leave some time for Q&A. If you have any questions about the content that we're reviewing before we get to Q&A, please stop me as we go. Okay. So first, how formability is used for tax roll. So formability is a system that is being used to process all applications that are submitted either through the One Stop portal by Maryland homeowners or through clerk forms, which are coming in as paper forms. The system is then being used after the processors have reviewed the application and in the instances where the application is approved, the system's used to generate the appropriate homeowners tax credit based on the state, county, and municipality business rules and legislation, as well as the tax rates. This will be our third year in which formability is the system that's being used to gather all the inputs from you all to process applications and to generate the tax roll credits. Now to talk through some of the steps that are taking place between now and the beginning of July. So firstly, all of the applications that are received by April 15th will be processed by the tax credits program team ahead of your county's tax roll generation so that this credit can be applied to the July 1st property tax bill. We're going to be collecting some inputs through formability. That's through the questionnaire and the tax rate verification sheet. We'll talk through that a bit more in a bit, as well as any updates to your county or municipal legislation, if applicable. I know some have already sent in those updates. We really appreciate those. The due date for those is coming up in March 1st. And that due date is to make sure that we have enough time to incorporate these updates into the system and conduct sufficient testing. If you all have any new legislation that will be impacting eligibility or business rules for how credit should be calculated, please let us know as soon as possible. We have the email address at the end of this presentation. The sooner we can get those in, the better. Next, we work through functional and system testing, both for our tool itself and working with the tax credit team. We have put some additional testing processes and procedures in place now that this will be our third year doing tax roll. We're trying to build on that more and more. Beginning this year, we're also going to be collaborating with some of the counties that have county and municipal supplements to review their legislation, the inputs provided, and some sample outputs. More to come on that, and for counties that this is applicable for, we'll be reaching out. Finally, getting to credit generation, that will occur from the end of May to beginning of July. That is when our system will generate the calculations for all of the approved calculations, as well as a summary of the denied applications. And then after these are generated by the system, they're reviewed by the SDAT TCP team for verification. After those are approved, the system then generates a tax roll package and a summary report that is delivered to each of your counties. Any questions before I move on to talk a little bit more about the questionnaire and TRVS? Okay. I'm just going to provide a summary of these two core inputs, and then Davina is going to walk through and actually show you what they look like. Oh, go ahead. Oh, never mind. But just to give a little bit of background before we do that, the first item that we'll show you is the questionnaire. So this questionnaire will prompt you to select which of the 6 groups. There'll be 4 counties per group you would like your county to be included in. Each group corresponds to a 1-week time frame between the end of May and beginning of July. This questionnaire will be available on March 13th after we have gotten everyone's account set up for each county. And they will be assigned on a sort of modified first come, first serve basis. The reason I say modified is that our system will only allow one of the big 5 counties per group. And this is really, really critical for making sure our teams across SDAT are able to devote sufficient attention to each county. Next is the tax rate verification sheet. This will be populated according to what group you select and are assigned to. This sheet will have last year's tax rates pre-populated. If there are no changes, you'll be able to leave those, and then you'll have a verification at the end of those tax rates. Or if there have been changes, then you'll just be able to update those tax rates directly in the form. Those tax rates will then be sent to the SDAT Tax Credit Program Manager, Mark Schell, and he will review those tax rates and respond to them, either verify it or state that they are not verified, and you will get that notification with informability. I think this will be a little bit more apparent as we review this. Also, for those of you who did this process last year, we have some minor enhancements, but this should look very familiar to what you are used to. Okay, Davina, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you, Sarah. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So as Sarah mentioned, I will be walking you all through all of the actions and forms that you will be completing within Formability throughout the tax roll process this year, starting with county contact assignment. Um, So in prior years, we've worked with you all via email to gather contact information, but this year we will be launching a form so that way you all can enter that directly into the system. So we've seen emails come through between Jordan Vespa on SSTAT's OIT side and One Stop Support to get accounts reactivated due to the 90-day expiration. Um, which is great. But with this form where you will be assigning your primary and alternate contacts, we've made it so that you do not need a Formability login, just in case not everyone is set up at this time. Um, Now, with the contact form that I will go over in just a second here, even though we do not require a login to complete the form, we do recommend trying to log in first if you do have an account. And if your account has expired due to inactivity, on your login page, you will see this message here. Now, onto the form. We will distribute a submission link for this form after the meeting today, so that way you all can submit as you are able. Um, but on the form, you'll be able to select your county and enter your primary contact information, such as last year. Um, Now, only one form per county is required. So, however it's easiest, maybe it is your primary contact uh, to submit, or if it's not, you're able to enter the information within the form here. Now, we also have a section for account status. So you can designate whether you have an active Formability account or if you need assistance due to expiration or needing a new account created. Uh, SSTAT IT admins, as well as admins from the Formability Ernst& Young side, will be monitoring submissions. So once we see accounts that need assistance with reactivation or creation, we will reach out and get you squared away. We also have a section for alternate contacts if you would like to add them at this time. So you can enter as many as you would like, as well as the account status for each. Um, we recommend having alternate county contacts. Let's say someone or your primary contact goes on vacation, or you would actually like someone else to have their e-signature and submit the tax rate verification sheet, for example. Um, Having them in Formability ahead of time will make it so that we can reassign them later on in the process in a more streamlined uh, way. Um, but yes, this is the county contact form. Again, we will be sending the link out after the meeting this afternoon. We kindly ask that the county contact form is submitted by February 27th. So that gives us adequate time to help reactivation and account creation in time for sending out the questionnaire. And of course, we will make sure that all primary contacts are active, informability, and assigned before distributing the form. All right. So I mentioned a little bit about contact reassignment. Um, Last year, it was also handled through email uh, communications, but this year we will give you all permission to a county contact page directly in Formability, so that in the event you do need to reassign your primary contact during tax roll, you can log into your Formability account and do so on your own. Um, all right, so here we're looking at an Allison test for Allegheny County. This is an email notification that you will receive once you've been assigned as your county contact this year. If we click View Record, In our formability account, we are brought to the Allegheny County contact for 2026. And here is an action button in the top right corner to reassign county contact and tax roll forms. Just a note, this button here won't be available quite yet, but it will be available for you once we send out questionnaires. So let's go ahead and take the reassign county contact action. We'll go ahead and confirm that we would like to do so. And on the bottom here, you're able to enter the contact information for who you would like to be reassigned as the primary contact. Now, once we hit submit, we are brought to a review step. So you'll see that we have details about our questionnaire and our tax rate verification sheet. It looks like Allison Test has already submitted the questionnaire, and there is an active draft that's still in progress under Allison. So another thing to note here, when there is a form that is submitted, the new primary contact will not be able to make any edits to the form, but they will be able to view what has been previously submitted as it will be reassigned to the new contact. However, Formability is not able to leverage form data for draft submissions since they have not been submitted yet. So it is recommended, and I can show you here in a second, but if you have a form that is in draft and you are about to reassign your primary contact, it's recommended to print your progress from Formability before completing this reassignment, because once you confirm the reassignment, Allison's draft will be deleted from Formability and a new draft TRVS will be created and assigned to April to complete. All right, so that is what we have for assignment and reassignment. Now I'll walk you through what our questionnaire and tax rate verification sheet look like. So here we have our county questionnaire, excuse me. There hasn't been any changes made to the form since last year, so I'll give an overview of the format here. So the top section is where you make your selection for your group. We have our groups broken down and their TRVS and AVS cutoff dates, as well as slots remaining. As Sarah mentioned, we have a modified first come, first serve system in place, and this form will guide you through the process. Essentially, as counties submit and make their group selections, all outstanding counties, when you open your questionnaire, these slots will continue to update in decreasing increments as others are making their selection. As Sarah also mentioned, the modified first come, first serve with consideration to our larger counties. If another large county has already selected a group, let's say group 2, for example, and there are still slots remaining, and you try to select group 2, you will have an error message that lets you know that it's already been assigned for a larger county, so it will guide you through what other groups are available for you to select. The next part of the form, there is a text box for you to enter any further considerations or requirements specifically for your county and your final package. And finally, your authorization, your e-signature. All right, and a reminder, questionnaires will be distributed on March 13th. Oh, 16th, Sarah, please correct me if I'm wrong. March 16th?
Sorry, let me confirm. Yes, we'll be distributing those on March 16th.
Great, thank you. Yes, so questionnaires will be distributed on March 16th. Again, we will make sure that all accounts are active and ready to receive the questionnaire because you do need to be logged in as your primary contact to complete the form, or if all counties have submitted their contact sheets and we have reactivated and created all accounts needed, it could be distributed earlier. And questionnaires will be due on April 15th.
Davina, I have a question.
Sure.
What if we submit our questionnaire and then either because our board of commissioners, well, our board has something in which changes our date, or with many of us where we have to get rates from the towns as well, where they may not have their meeting and it delays our date. What happens then if we can't meet the initial date that we put in?
Back you up. Absolutely, and thank you. We have seen this happen in the past few years. So it would be more so communicating with SSTAT's tax credit program team and call in like we usually do via email. And then they would work with you to see which dates are doable within across all of our teams. And then we can update for mobility as needed.
Should we contact you directly or does it?
I believe Sarah has an email address that we will be using.
Okay.
It won't be me directly this year, but yes, everyone on the SSTAT and Ernst& Young side will have access to communications that come through on this email address here.
Okay. See, Sarah has just put the email address in a group chat for everyone, by the way. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, great question. So moving on to the TRVS, the tax rate verification sheet, also set up the same as last year. The first page is an overview of your TRVS due date based on the group selection you've made from your questionnaire. And you will receive the TRVS in your email immediately upon submission of your questionnaire. So that way you have it. The second page of the TRVS will have text fields so that way you can enter your tax rates. Um, your tax rates will be pre-populated with the tax rates from last year, 2025. So if there hasn't been any changes, you can leave the values as is, or if there does need to be a change to the tax rate or county differential rate, you can update that directly here. Now, the full version of the form, this is just for demo purposes, will have sections for ad valorums and special districts. And then at the bottom here, there's another e-signature required. Upon submission of your TRVS, you will receive a confirmation email from Formability, so that way you can navigate back to what you have submitted. And then you will receive another email notification from Formability once SSTAT has reviewed your submission and either accepted the form or returns it for returns it for corrections. If you do receive your TRVS back for corrections, there will be revision notes provided by the reviewer. All right, and that's everything that I had. Thank you all.
Okay. Thanks, Davina. Almost done. Just want to share our next steps and go through any questions or points of contact. So after this meeting, we'll work with Eric to get these materials out, and then you'll also be receiving a link to the county contact form. If you all can fill that out by the 27th, which is a week from tomorrow, that will allow us to have some time to make sure that everyone's accounts are set up and reactivated if needed. We'll be sharing the questionnaire on Monday, March 16th. You will have just under a month to complete that questionnaire. But remember, it's first come, first serve, so we recommend starting it early. During that time, we'll also be reaching out to counties with county or municipal supplements as applicable. We'll coordinate and reach out to you kind of the best way to do that. We can do it on a case by case basis. And then finally, for you all completing the TRVS form that Davina just walked through, and that due date will be variable according to your selected group. So the TRVS will be due the week before we begin generating the credits for your county. If you have any questions as you go through these processes, reach out to the distribution list for Chris Estat at maryland.gov. Again, we will send this out after the meeting, and that will allow us to make sure that we have the right folks included across our EY and STAT teams, so we can make sure that everyone that the right person can respond to you and we are transparent. And then finally, you'll be receiving notifications from Formability from the account support at formability.com. I'm sure you all have been in contact with the tax credit program managers already, but we have Mark Shell here, and then Billy Quinn and Latasha Phillips, who are the two deputies. So you'll likely see them chiming in if you reach out to the One Stop Formability support email. That was all we had for today. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions from anyone? Okay, well,
Not
Sarah,
wrong.
oh, go ahead, Mark.
No, I don't have anything for right now.
Oh, okay. Sarah, thank you for reaching out. Timing wise, this was definitely perfect. As you know, we're getting ready to go into sending out, getting the tax rates together to send out to you. So, timing wise, this was perfect. So glad that you could join us today, and thank you for reaching out to me so I can get you included for today's meeting.
Thank you for having us. And yeah, if anyone on this call has questions as we go through, feel free to reach out to the distribution list, and one of us will get back to you soon.
All right, great. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we'll go into our roundtable discussion, and pretty much it's on tax sale legislation, tax sale setup as well. I know Christy, she's usually the first one up with her tax sale, which is in March. Is that correct, Christy? Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's
Yes,
all right.
our tax sale's March 6th.
March 6th. Okay.
Mhm.
Have you sent out your final reminders already, Christy?
Well, they go out in December.
Oh, you got at least okay, okay. Okay. And you'll be you did yours online again last year, correct?
Yes, realauction.com.
Real auction. Okay. All right, well, we definitely wish you lucky. I mean, you're the first one to get started, and everyone else generally falls in line around the second week of May and beyond. Then I think Carol's maybe the last one. They usually have theirs the last week in June.
June.
Okay, and with the tax sale legislation, we're going to have Bob Yeager come in and give us an update as well. I know we had several different bills that went into effect. One went into effect in January, and then we have some other ones that are already into effect that Bob's going to speak up on, and then I know there was some emails floating around about bills with tax sale and what everyone's doing. So if we want to discuss that as well, now would be a good time to go ahead and talk about that too. So
Okay,
go ahead, Bob. The floor is yours.
okay, thanks, Eric. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. Bob Yeager from SDAT. I had looked back at what the tax sale related bills were. We had in 2025, we had HB 59 and HB 953. HB 59 took effect on January 1st of this year, and I can kind of take you through that. I think there's going to be lots of questions on that, so maybe we'll do that one last. These other three bills, HB 953 was effective July 1st of last year. This one is the bill that requires counties to, if you have a website, you need to include information about the HPP program and a link to that program. If you need sort of language to put on your website, you can reach out to the ombudsman's office, and they can give information to you about that. It requires SDAT and the counties to collaborate with, let's see, we have to collaborate with local governments to raise awareness of the program and disseminate applications. So I think one of the ways we've talked about collaborating is to reach out to each county and see if there's local community organizations we should connect with. We have relationships with a lot of nonprofits in each county, but if there's any function that the county is participating in, like a community event or a senior resource event, or any other newsletters that the counties might send out to people, we can provide information to add to that. And I think that will help us sort of work together to reach the homeowners that are in your communities. The other requirement is the funding requirement for the homeowner protection program. It requires county governments to collectively pay $500,000 annually to the Homeowner Protection Fund, and the breakdown is based on each county's percentage of the number of real property accounts statewide as of July 1st of the preceding fiscal year. That bill also says that the amount that's paid by the counties to this fund should be derived from interest on overdue property taxes. And it says that the payment should be remitted to SDAT by the first day of the fiscal year. And then the last thing that bill does is it adds 2 questions to the annual survey. So that's something that I think was already added to last year's annual survey. Any questions about that bill? And if you know, we can go back to it too if it occurs to you. The next one, there were 2 bills from 2024, HB 16 from 2024. It creates the Homeowner Protection Fund donation portal and the insert notice requirement that counties are required to put in each tax bill. We have just launched our donation portal this week, so it took a little longer than we thought to work it all out with the vendor, but now we have the donation portal. So we are in the process of designing the insert and notice. It has to have sort of a brief description of the program, and it's language that encourages someone reading this to donate to the Homeowner Protection Fund, which funds the Homeowner Protection Program. What that means for the counties is SDAT is required to design the insert and send that to you so that you can print that and include the insert in each tax bill. I think we talked about maybe more than a year ago now that the ideal size would be a 1/3 sheet because it would allow you to save money on printing. So we're designing it based on that format. But obviously, if the design that we send to you doesn't meet your needs, just reach back out. Our Alyssa Nolte, our communications officer, will be in charge of creating that form with the link. And let's see. So the bill requires counties to include the insert in tax bills. Yes.
Excuse me, do you know when that's going to be provided to the counties?
We've set a deadline as March 1st because I think in the past you said you would need them in March in order to have it in the July tax bill. Is that early enough, Cindy?
I would hope so. So, yeah.
Okay, so we can try to get that out next week, before, as soon as possible, as soon as we have that designed. Literally it just launched, so Alyssa's working on that today, so I will take that as a note to get that to you as soon as possible.
Hey, Bob, that also has to be its own individual paper. It can't be included with anything else that we have. Is that
The language of the bill does say that it needs to be, let me take a quick look at the exact language. It does say that a separate insert. Let me just find this bill. This is HB 16. Right. So if you look at the statute number is 4-201.1 under subsection B. It says each collector shall include with each property tax bill a separate insert that includes a concise description of the assistance program, a concise description of the assistance that the program provides, and and language that encourages the taxpayer to make a voluntary donation. So SDAT will design the separate insert and provide that to each county. So my read of it is yes, that it would need to be a separate insert. Okay, and then let's see. I think that's all that bill would require from the counties. I think it's and take a look at these and let me know if you have any questions about any of these provisions. We're always warned not to give legal advice to the county finance offices. So this is just my sort of read as kind of looking at this, and we're just talking through this. So please don't take this as legal advice, but my read of that is that's how it affects the counties. And then the other bill from HB 54 from 2024 was HB 54, and that enables counties to create a payment plan for homeowners who do not escrow their property taxes. It also and it provides language for how that program would have to be established. I think it requires counties to enact the plan and the eligibility requirements through local ordinance, and then that is how you would establish it. But the bill also requires SDAT to contract with a vendor to create a statewide payment plan for homeowners who do not escrow their property taxes. So we are in the process of we're in the RFP process for contracting with the vendor. We will be hitting another benchmark at the end of this month as that RFP moves forward. We are hopeful to have a payment plan in place by this summer, hopefully by the end of the summer. But a lot of it'll depend on what the program entails, who the vendor is, what the terms of that program are. In this RFP, the vendor really has to bring a lot of the mechanisms to in their offer. So as we review the offers, we'll take a look at that and we'll know more information once the selection's made. But that will be something that's available to all homeowners. There's no income requirement. There's no assessed value requirement. It would just allow someone who is not escrowing their property taxes to enroll with the vendor, and they can enroll at any time during their tax payment process. So either in advance of the taxes being due, when they have delinquent property taxes, if they're in the tax sale process, and then the vendor would bring them up to date with the county and then put them on a payment plan to get them on track to be back on schedule. So we're very anxious to get that process moving forward. Any questions about that?
Wasn't that the same thing as House Bill 790, where we have to advertise, send another buck slip for the property tax payment plan that last year you said it would probably be ready by the end of fiscal year 26? So this was yet another insert that we have to send?
This is the same program, right? And we're still on track to have this ready by the end of fiscal 26. that's, I think HB 790, I guess it is, from 2024.
Right.
It would require you, and we can take a look at that language really quickly. Let's see.
Because that was another insert that we had to add in the tax bill, as I remember reading that.
Right. And just keep in mind, I didn't write these, so
Right.
don't shoot the
What,
messenger.
yeah, what was
Um,
the bill? What was the bill number you originally referenced though, Bob?
HB 54 from 2024. That talks about the payment plan, but let me look at HB 790 and just see. I was really looking to see if it's, like James said, if it's a separate insert that can't be combined with anything else.
Hopefully it can be combined with the other one because our tax bill currently, we can only put $2 slips in it or we go over the postage. So there would be both our buck slips with SDET.
It's not, was this from, do you know what year that bill
I
was
thought it
from?
was last year that it was
Oh,
supposed to go
okay.
into effect July 1st, 2025, but then your plan, the portal wasn't ready.
Right. The donation portal is separate. So the donation portal was established in HB 16 HB 16 from 2024. And yes, you didn't have to do an insert last year because the donation portal wasn't ready. So now we have the donation portal. We'll get you that information. So that's a separate slip for the donation portal. HB 54 of 2024 created the payment plan. And I'm just trying to see where that language is about the notification requirement that the counties provide. HB 790, let me just see. For 2025, it's saying that bill number does not exist. Um, do you have any documentation of the bill number, James, that
Let
you
me look for
are
it.
looking at?
I'll get
Okay.
back to you.
Okay, and I can take a look at it. We can look at it together. Um, so that is those, and then
I have one more question.
yes,
Um, you were saying a payment plan. I understand about taxes, but it sounded like you mentioned a payment plan for accounts that are already in tax sale.
right, Tara. The language in the bill allows someone to enroll in the payment plan at three different stages. So let me just get that language. It's basically in advance. So the ideal scenario, you'd enroll 12 months before your taxes are due. You start escrowing those payments, and then when it's time, just like an escrow company, when the bill's due in July, the vendor would pay that off. The second category is you can enroll just before the taxes are due. So you can enroll, at the end of June, when your bill's due, and the vendor would pay the county off and then put someone on a payment plan. So they'd pay off that debt to the vendor while simultaneously escrowing payments for the following July. And then the same thing would happen if it's after the taxes are already delinquent or they've even accrued you know uh, delinquent amounts. They would be able to enroll with the vendor and be brought up to date with the county, and then the homeowner would be put on a payment plan that would again allow them to pay off the debt while simultaneously starting to escrow payments so that in anticipation of the following year's tax bill so that they would come up to date. How that exactly is going to play out is going to depend on how the vendor wants to do it. We've left the RFP. We had put out an RFP originally, and we didn't get any bids, so we made some changes to it. Um, one of and then we put it back out again, and we have gone through uh, the question period. We answered a lot of questions, and we have bidders that are interested. So um, the the statute requires the contract to have no cost to the state. So the vendor is only able to um, be compensated through fees that they pass on to the enrollee. So we left the language broad so that there are various different types of fees, and we wanted to see what vendors came up with in terms of how they would make that work. So at the same time, we don't want it to be something where there are predatory fees placed on this, but at the same time, it has to be something where it's going to be appealing to a vendor to take on the contract.
Okay, I got. I was just care. I was trying to figure out like when would they pay. So now I understand the vendor would pay, and then they would actually pay the vendor the payment plan. Because I was concerned about them making payments, and some of these purchases are going really fast to the court, which means that houses could be foreclosed on. So I guess that vendor payment, if it's legal fees are involved, they would take care of all that, and that homeowner would pay the vendor, and then the account would be satisfied. Okay, I got it.
Right. And like I say, it's going to depend on how the vendor sees that playing out. Like if they're going to give people, say, 3 years to pay off a delinquent amount, and then at the same time they're going to start escrowing payments so that they can pay that July 1st tax bill. It's going to depend on how that vendor decides to manage that debt.
Few questions real quick.
Oh, sure.
Just to clarify, you've put out an RFP, all of the vendor management and putting the programs in place, the vendor would handle, and you are handling the vendor. The counties are not going out and doing anything other than putting out a communication with our tax bills to make sure people are aware this is available. And the vendor is going to pay the delinquent amount in full. So we're not going to have to worry about piecemeal payments coming in and doing something special in our systems. They're handling all of that, right?
The way that we, yes, the way that
Okay.
we read the statute, it says that the vendor will enable the enrollee to pay their taxes at these different phases. But
Okay.
that was our first question was, is this something where they've enrolled in this program, now they're going to pay $100 a month, but the counties are going to still carry the debt? Like how is that? And I think our read of this is that the vendor is going to provide this loan basically to enrollees, and that from the county's perspective, they're going to be paid off.
Okay. And I guess there's a question, I don't know if it's the same, if you all are asking it about this, whether or not SDAT's going to provide the information for the insert for that. Or that's what you were still looking up.
We would provide the information for the insert. If there's, I have to look at the language of what it's required. The insert for the donation portal, it has specific requirements for the insert, like a description of the program, the benefits, and then language that would encourage someone to donate.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to see what the language says for the payment plan. It's just we're still a few months away from getting this payment plan in place, but
I just dropped that link in.
Okay. $2025 $790. Okay.
Thanks, James.
Okay, so information on the website. Each collector shall include with each property tax bill a separate insert that includes, and they have language in quotes. Okay, if you would like to pay your property taxes in monthly installments, you may be eligible to enroll in an installment plan. And then a concise description of the program, which we can provide the language for. And then instructions on how to enroll in the program. We can have a link to the program and sort of instructions how to apply. And then, right, the ombudsman shall design the separate insert. Okay, and we'll get you that as soon as, by the end of this year, if the program is up and running by that time.
Bob, that bill's not effective to May 1st, 2027.
Let's just see here.
I think.
Right. Yeah, right. That's correct. So it wouldn't be until next year for the notices. I think we're
change that. Okay.
And I think they changed that because they created the payment plan, and then the following year they said, now we want to put a notice in there. And we said, well, the RFP process is taking a lot longer than we expected. We don't want to have the counties putting out notices for a program that doesn't exist yet. So that now I remember. Yeah, that's right. And I apologize. I'm not the tax sale ombudsman anymore, so I don't think about this. I don't think about it quite every day, but I do still think a lot about it. So thank you, James. I appreciate that flag on that.
Sure, and I didn't see that the year had changed on the bill after.
Right.
Thanks.
And then last but not least, we have the HB 59, which took effect on January of this year. There were several changes to the tax sale process. Very briefly, it caps the interest on unpaid property taxes after a tax sale at 10%. So it requires those counties that had a higher percentage rate to lower that to 10%. It raised the debt threshold required to be included in a tax sale to a minimum of $1,000. It excluded any non-delinquent taxes from the payoff amount. So it reduced the redemption amount. It broadened the definition of, well, let's see, it requires counties to maintain their tax sale records for at least 3 years, which I think most counties do already. And then it broadened the definition of homeowner to include an heir to a deceased homeowner, the deceased homeowner's estate, the personal representative, or any heirs that are entitled to inherit the property. I wanted to share with you about the heirs issue. What we have, when this came into play, and we have to, homeowners being defined or including heirs to properties means that you can apply for the homeowner protection program, or you can also apply for the homeowner's property tax credit as an heir to the deceased property owner. So we didn't know what sort of documentation people would be able to provide to us when they applied to these programs. So we're just, so what can you get us? And as people have shown us what they have, we've come up with a list because we want to have a standard approach that everyone can follow. We will accept a copy of the will, trust, or non-probate instrument of writing for the deceased homeowner, a copy of the death, and this is, let me just make sure, a copy of the death certificate for the deceased homeowner. We need that in addition to the copy of the will. And then a copy of documentation that shows the surviving family member is related to the deceased homeowner. And that can vary based on the circumstances, but that's what we ask for. And then we evaluate on a case-by-case basis to see whether they've met that threshold. We're trying to work with the property, the heirs to the properties to make the process work for them and not, we're always looking to possibly adjust how we do this. There's a lot of interest by lawmakers to make sure that this is not, that we are able to work with what heirs are able to provide us. So we have enrolled just a couple of people, just a very few, I would say less than 5 people, either in the HPP program or through the homeowners property tax credit. But it is a tool that we have now that when someone contacts us and says, what do I do? The property's titled in my parents' name, but I've lived here my whole life. It's my principal residence. My parents died 20 years ago, but I still live in this property. They've never gone through the process of changing into their name, but we can work with them to, number one, access tax credits or the HPP program if they're in tax sale. And then, of course, we try to connect people with legal services so that they can transfer that property into their name. So that they're not just applying as an heir going forward in the years. What we've heard a lot of times is there a requirement? There's always often the question, is there a requirement that someone eventually puts the deed into their name? And this program, when they changed the definition of homeowner to include heirs, it didn't add a requirement that that person has to transfer the property into their name within a certain amount of time. So we just do that. We try to help people because it's better for them to have the property in their name. So we try to help them with that process, but there's no requirement on our end.
So Bob, you mentioned that they have to provide proof of being related, but the definition of an heir doesn't require that you're related to someone. Is that an additional stipulation?
This is, I think, the way that they do it, and I apologize for not having a real clear understanding on this myself, but I think what our tax credits unit does is if they have the copy of the death certificate and they have a copy showing that the surviving family member is related to the deceased homeowner by blood, adoption, or marriage, those two things might suffice without a copy of the will, trust, or non-probate instrument. So it could be a combination of those two things where, we see that it's their principal residence because the person applying, their driver's license shows that that's their address. Then we have this documentation that shows that they're related to the deceased property owner. And then we have a death certificate for the deceased homeowner. And that would be sufficient for us to allow them to access the credit or enrollment in the program.
Okay, I guess that's really my question is there a definition, and maybe I just need to research this, is there a definition of heir with the state? Because you don't have to be a blood relation to be an heir to someone. So,
Right.
it could be somebody who's had a caregiver for 15 years and they have no family and die and leave it to that person. They wouldn't be able to show that they're related.
Right. And I think that's how this works. I think they use that relationship if there's not a will, because if there's no will, then it's going to revert to sort of intestacy where it's going to be
Okay.
the blood
Okay.
relative. But if you are, say you're the caregiver and you have a copy of the will and the decedent left you this property, you would have the copy of the will and you would have that death certificate, and it would show that you are that's your principal residence, that property. That would be enough for that heir to access the credit to that process.
Okay. Okay. So the proof of relation is if there's absent a will.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Got it. Thank you.
One more question from Prince George's County.
Oh, yes.
So I'm correct. The 10% cap on the redemption is only for principal residence properties.
Let me just grab that bill.
Yeah, I
HB
think, yeah,
59.
it said that. Owner occupied.
Okay. Owner occupied. Okay. And the other question was, when they're saying that the redemption fee would not be anything that's not delinquent. So that's what was confusing. We already do that. Like we don't if it's like the next year's bill, if it's not delinquent, we're not collecting it. But once it becomes delinquent, will we be collecting it again, or will they still be able to redeem without having to pay that delinquent bill? So my issue is like if let's say they went to tax sale last year and then they don't redeem until right before we're about to start stuff for tax sale again, then that will miss being in tax sale and not, paying that year that's due now. So that's what I was confused about. So will they be able to, I know we can if they pay it, but will we be able to let them redeem the property without paying anything on another bill, even after it's delinquent? Or is this the same before it's delinquent, we don't have to collect it?
I'm just looking at the bill, and it's under the statutory provision is 14-817.1, and that says within 60 days after the property is sold, the collector will send the person who last appeared a notice with all that information. Then you go down to subsection it goes into where it breaks down the fees that you can charge. I'm just looking. Under 9, it says a statement that if the property is redeemed after an action to foreclose, and that's not it. Let's see. Right. Now I see it said for owner-occupied residential property, the rate of redemption may not exceed 10% a year. So that's just for owner-occupied residential property. Apologies. Let me just look down here.
So on top of that, I noticed in the House bill that it also puts a cap on the threshold for non-homeowner occupied. Is that something similar with the cap of the percentage for the redemption rate?
Are you looking at this bill right now, Josh?
Yes.
Where are you looking?
So it's in the code 14811, which is derived from House Bill 59.
All right, one second. I know our AAGs are going to say, are you actually looking at a statute and telling somebody how to interpret it? Okay, 14 and 11. I'm not giving legal advice. Okay, so you said 14. 811.
811, and then it's going to be B2
When
will
the
be
total
one and
taxes on the
two.
property,
Owner occupied residential property when total taxes or penalties amount to less than $1,000. So those are just owner occupied. What's the question?
So it's about the cap on the redemption rate. It's very similar. It seems like it's similar. So it sounds like this new provision is putting a cap on the threshold for the two separates, non-homeowner occupied and homeowner occupied. So is it the same way with the cap on the redemption rate where it says not to exceed 10% for owner occupied, but what about non-owner occupied?
let's see if it talks about that specifically. I'm looking at the
We're just doing our normal here personally.
What is your normal rate where you are?
The full 20, isn't it, Tara?
Yeah, so our tax sale redemption is 20%. It goes out one or two a year. So they would be 10% for the homeowner occupied properties.
So then you're doing your normal 20 for non-owner occupied and the 10% for owner occupied.
Yeah,
Correct.
10% for owner occupied and 20 for everything else.
What system do you guys use?
It is an in-house built system that we're working on
Okay.
building another one.
One redemption rate.
Hartford County interpreted the same way. You can charge two different rates.
Yeah.
We are not. We have determined we're just going to go down to 10 for everything. But we did interpret it that way, that if we wanted to charge a different rate for non-homeowner occupied, you could.
So that's what we're trying to figure out too. We're trying to get some advice from our law office to try to figure out if we should do one rate because our system only allows for one rate that we're currently using.
right, because when you look in the statute, it shows, for example, like Carroll County, the rate is 14%, and then down, it just adds that extra provision that says for owner occupied residential, the rate may not exceed 10% a year. So that's that. So that means all those other rates, if they're over 10, that would just apply to anything other than owner occupied properties. Okay, so I was looking up something else here. This is Tara's question about what's included in the redemption payoff amount. Let's see.
Right.
Sorry, I'm just scrolling through this here.
Yeah,
I mean, I think if you wanted to point me to the section of the law that you usually refer to in terms of what's included in your payoff amount, I think it's probably been updated, and I can pull that up and even share the screen if anyone knows off the top of their head the statute where it kind of articulates what's included in the payoff amount.
I don't have that really right now. I was just trying to look at the interpretation of HB 59, what it was saying. Hold on, let me see.
Right, I'm just scrolling through HB 59. It's not jumping out at me. Because they don't necessarily put the whole statute in there, so it's just trying to see.
I thought I had seen it in 59.
So right before the 10%, but after the threshold on HB 59, but it doesn't give a code, so I have to look for it.
I see the language at the bottom of page 5 where it says for property that is not owner occupied residential property, any delinquent taxes. So those could be included. but I'm looking for property that is not owner occupied.
Together, yeah, the total amount of taxes due on the property at the time of sale, together with interest, penalties, and expenses incurred in making the sale.
Cindy, did you have that statute?
It's 1420. I mean, 14820.
14,820.
Not owner occupied.
Okay, 14,820A, the collector shall deliver certificate of sale. It sets forth
It actually might be
total amount of taxes due on the property at the time of the sale, together with interest, penalties, expenses incurred.
I think it's on 14,828.
Actually 148171, because it's talking about in 7 the statement of that if the property is redeemed before an action to foreclose the right of redemption is filed, the amount shall be paid to redeem the property is the total lien amount on the property at the time of sale with interest. Any taxes, interest, and penalties paid by the holder of the certificate of sale. And then it says for non-owner occupied, taxes, interest, and penalties. So it's a little confusing. It says any delinquent. So if it's owner occupied, it seems like it is only the taxes, interest, and penalties that were due at the time of tax sale.
That's right.
And
that's
anything
correct.
else, if something becomes delinquent, you can collect that too. That's how I'm reading it anyway.
I read that as
when you go down to 373.
The total lien amount at the time of the sale with interest, any taxes, interest, and penalties paid by the holder, the lien purchaser, at this the holder paid by the that would be paid by the holder during the course of their possession of the certificate. And for non-owner occupied, any delinquent taxes. Okay, so I wonder if that would mean if the holder paid the taxes as they accrue. Let's say they purchased it at tax sale, the July 1 bill comes, but the holder pays the taxes. That does not usually happen, right? The holder does not pay the taxes, just becomes the old way was it just became part of the payoff amount. And
right
when it was delinquent, and then the redemption would settle all that up.
Correct.
But this would say that they would pay total lien amount with interest, any taxes, interest, and penalties paid by the holder. So that would mean at the time they purchased the lien certificate, I would think.
Yeah.
And so that's the redemption for owner occupied that would just stop there.
Which is interesting because that would mean if we can collect what we have to pay the holder of the certificate, their interest, then we would be charging more than the 10% for them to redeem.
Why? Because the holder's entitled to more than that?
What is the holder getting, Tara? Are they just getting the interest?
So it's 1 and 2/3. Yeah, they're just getting interest 1 and 2/3% a month.
Okay.
And so, yeah, and then so it ends up being 20% a year. So they'll be getting half that now on the principal residence one.
Okay.
Tara, the way Harper County interpreted it was we couldn't collect anything else. You could only collect what was sold at tax sale plus the redemption rate of that 10% on homeowner occupied.
Right. Yep. So that's
did it a year later. We can't do it. We can't collect anything else.
So yeah, so you thought a year later, if they came in and redeemed, they can redeem, and they even though the new bill is due, they wouldn't have to pay it. that's gonna really hurt to me, hurt more
She's
homeowners.
yeah, she's talking about and let's stay on one thing for a second though. She's talking about the interest. So are you saying where there's more interest accruing, you have to pay the certificate holder and you're not going to get it from the tax sale person redeeming, the owner redeeming, because you can only charge the 10%. Is that what I'm hearing you say? Whoever was chiming in to
This
Tara.
Suffolk County, we're
Oh yeah,
10%.
sorry, Rachel.
We already have our notice of sale to tell them they're only getting 10%.
Okay, all right.
So we're not paying them more than they think they're getting.
Yeah.
So no, not in that instance. But my answer to whether we could charge them for the upcoming items that they've been billed and haven't paid, even if it's a year later, no.
Yeah.
They'd have to go to
Only if it's non-owner occupied.
Right.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Is anyone using a different threshold for your non-owner occupied versus vacant property?
Hartford County's considering using our same threshold. We've been using it 250 because
Okay.
it's optional. 750 said may and not shall.
Got it.
Charles County, the same thing as Hartford, just a 250.
Got it. That would make you happy, wouldn't it, Tara?
So happy.
Okay.
Well, I'll leave it at that. If you have any other questions or want to talk about this further, that's all I had to present. But if there's another tax sale related bill that you want to talk about, I'm happy to pull it up and take a look.
I did want to say while you're on, Bob, that the tax sale survey is due, I want to say it's March 31. I could be wrong on that date.
I apologize. I will find out right now.
I did see the date, but I can't remember. I know something did go out last month about the tax sale survey, to let everyone know.
I have a general question for this group, and I feel like we might have talked about it related to another bill at one point. But one of the pieces of proposed legislation is that you need to include with the bills a listing of all credits that the particular home property owner could be eligible for. So we're just going to put out all of our possible credits and break them to residential and business. But that language in there basically says you will include with all bills, I believe is how it's worded. And I believe we've had the discussion before of as long as it's included with the main initial bill, everyone felt comfortable that the bases are covered. You don't have to include it with every reprint or, if somebody gets a homeowner's credit and gets a new bill, you don't have to put it back in with that bill. It's just the main bill. Because I think it was in some of this language that we've just talked about also. Does anybody have a different interpretation about that? And it's House Bill 1096 if you haven't seen it.
Actually, Kevin brought that up to, hold on. Kevin sent something out to Dan and I the other day to get feedback on that as far as what does everyone think about that with having some notification sent out about all the property tax credits offered. I know for us on our tax bill on the back of it, we have something about the veterans and the homeowners tax credit, and like for the credits that are like counties, like county ones that we have. We do an insert on the senior tax credit that we put in the tax bill, and then any other tax credit we have, we when someone calls in, we usually direct them to our site, which lists all the county property tax credits, and then also we give them a link to SDAT where they can look up any other tax credits that they may be eligible for because we don't know what their situation is. We don't know their income, we don't know military status, none of that. So a lot of it's hard to list. And it's too much to list for one, but
Right. Well, and that was a little bit of where we are, and similar to probably most everyone, we have an insert. It's a trifold, and we've got the veterans and the homeowners and the homestead and the elderly property tax credit, which for us right now is on hold. But even if we were if that would be yet again another insert of because that is what it says, is that you need to include all the credits that someone could be eligible for. And I think it comes back to so often there are credits out there that even though we have information, people still don't realize that they're out there, or they don't go to the website, or any of those types of things. When we initiated the elderly property tax credit a couple years ago, it was shocking how many people did not have the homeowners credit and they were eligible, didn't know about it, um, didn't had never applied for the homestead credit. So, I think that's probably part of the reason. But I just wasn't sure. I was just curious. My first thing, not even a matter of whether or not how cumbersome it'll be to do it, is do you understand that to be, if we have to do it, sending it with the main bill would cover the bases?
I mean I think it possibly covered bases, but I would say 9 out of 10 people with the inserts,
Aren't gonna read it
they're not even
anyway.
going to read. They're not going to read it. They're going to
Right.
get their tax bill, and they may look at that and everything else. They're going to pitch,
Yeah.
and that's what most of them tell us that they do. They say they don't even look at anything else.
Yeah. Anybody else? Thoughts or no? Okay.
One other thing we were talking about was that, well, in the emails that went out was about the adjustments and refund process. Did everyone, I mean, do we need any more discussion on that, or is everyone pretty clear as far as what everyone does with that?
Hey Eric, I'm going to go back to what you were talking about before. So we just lost internet on
Oh, okay.
our side. So if you guys asked anything of Frederick County, we have been out for the last couple minutes.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, you're good.
Is everybody still getting a lot of disabled veteran approvals coming through?
Yes.
Harford's are going up and up. And I mean, we're finding people fully employed, 40 hours a week, 100% disabled.
Yeah. That's, I don't think it's going to stop, Rachel, unfortunately.
No.
Back up, Dan. Okay, now you're ready to say something about guess what Cindy and I were speaking of earlier with House Bill 1096, I believe.
Yeah, if Diane's on, she provided some feedback that we forwarded over to Kevin. I mean, same thing that others have stated here, that another insert costs us, a chunk of money. But once our postage increases because the weight gets to a certain amount, that's when, it's going to have a bigger impact. And at some point, people are just going to stop reading the whole multitude of things that we have to keep jamming into one bill.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's just getting a little crazy.
And that may be something we can express to Kevin when he speaks about this, about our opposition to it, is that let's say 95% of people don't even read what's in the tax bill. I mean, it's great that they want to try to include things so people are made aware of it, but they're just not reading it. So it's really a waste of, $5,000 or more to do that insert in the bill.
Right.
Do you all, who did this come from? Do you all get the report? Linda Allen forwarded to me a report that came from the state on the number and amount of exemptions for veterans for each county. Did you all get that?
Yeah, I just got it here at Frederick
Okay.
County.
Yep.
I think we got something from our local SDAT office.
Yeah, there had been a request at the MACO committee meeting, and so we created a report. We sent each county their veterans exemption amounts, and then there was a follow-up request. I think it was from Prince George's County that for all the counties, sort of a comparison of all the different counties. So we generated a report, and we'll do one of those each year
That's
going
great.
forward.
Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
And it'll be posted on the site each year, Bob?
I will find out from our real property unit whether they are going to just post it as a report with all our other real property reports, or if it's something that will appear somewhere else. I think that's probably where it will be. Will just be on our website. If you did not get it, you can just send me an email, robert.yeager@maryland.gov, and I can have somebody forward that.
Because recently, go ahead, Cindy.
Sorry.
No,
Bob,
you're fine.
do you know if the amount on there is the annual? It's just that 1 year's annual assessment. It doesn't take into consideration the retroactive amounts that are being given.
I will find out about that and get back to you if it incorporates the retroactive. Like if it's the amount that was paid out by the county that year, if somebody just enrolled and they went back to 2018.
It looks like this is exemption, the assessed value exemption versus the credit. So that could be good to see too, is how does it equate to credit amount, especially for the retroactive portions? Because then that's kind of skewed in the annual information.
Sure.
Do you have any idea if that's going to go anywhere in capping the look back to 3 years?
I have not heard of MACO or another county group working with a lawmaker to put a bill forward that would change anything about the veterans exemption. I think that's, I think Kevin might be able to tell you more about that. But I think from our perspective, I think that, like I've said before, I think some veterans don't understand the statute. It's not clear in some ways. And I think it would be worth making some changes to make it clearer about how far you can go back, with the goal of not having our veterans frustrated in the application process. That might be a way to help people understand that this isn't just it's not just trying to dial back this exemption, but it's really trying to make people feel like it's a fair process. So I think that's from our perspective, that's the feedback we get, that there's often a debate about how we evaluate eligibility requirements, and
I guess,
a lot of,
I guess for Prince George's County, we didn't really think of it from that perspective, because we've always done a 3-year look back. We've always, when they've gotten approved, we sent them out notification that we'll do retroactive, but it's more a matter of the state across the board with everything only goes back 3 years. So this has kind of blindsided everybody.
And I think I've said before, it's just our AGs have told us that we have to follow this process. So I've mentioned that it is a problem, but it's not.
So we'll get with Kevin. I know before the session started, he had said he was speaking to a couple of people, but I don't know. And I don't know, Dan or Eric, if you all have any idea if there's anything in the process with Kevin.
Um, I mean, we tried. I know we were trying to get Kevin on today, but
Mhm.
he said he was going to be tied up, so it was going to be touch and go whether or not he could make today's meeting.
Got it.
We'll speak with them again and see what we find, see what we can find out.
And we'd
I
be happy if they're trying to put something together, we'd be happy to share the feedback that we get from veterans and their frustrations and sort of things that might make the process work better from our end. And that may include, tightening up this
The
non-codified
language.
language that made it
Mhm.
go back
Yeah.
so far.
Yeah. Thank you.
and I know our law department has reached out to Kevin, but he really hasn't been responsive, is what I've been told.
Okay.
And the bottom line was it was put together in 2021 when 3 years was 2018. It was just poorly put together. And that's why it's going back to 2018, which is what my legal counsel was trying to tell them, that it just needs to be corrected.
Yeah. Yeah. Kevin knows. Kevin knows. we've had many discussions. We'd like to see a cap on the assessed value too, but I don't think that's ever going to go anywhere.
We're right there with you. And we're changing systems, so it's going to be more difficult for us to go back and know what it was for 7 years.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, Bob, I don't know if this is something you are aware of or if this is something for Bill Baker. My understanding is that we're no longer getting the Veterans Exemption Code. We're not getting the coding coming through in our data anymore. So we aren't even going to be able to tell necessarily on some of the exemptions what they're even for. Is anybody else experiencing that, or are you aware of that, Bob?
I am not. I can reach out to Bill Baker and try to find out more information and get back to you.
Okay.
We did have an issue when they were partial exemptions. The code wasn't coming through as exempt at all. And that was new because it did in the past. And that was in this past year.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Um, Guys should have received probably as early this week. I think information on constant yield went out to complete that. I'm not sure if it comes to you all or if it goes to you guys, director of finance. So just letting you know about that. Um, has anyone has this discussion of the pennies come up anymore with any of the county? I know Dan and I were talking about it briefly. I know they're going to be rounding down to help resolve their situation. We're still in limbo as far as what we're going to do.
Yeah, we'll be rounding down in Frederick County
Okay.
to the nearest nickel.
Yeah, we had our county attorney take a look at the policy and what others have done. And their interpretation is if we round up beyond what a bill originated at, it would be like a government taking and could put us in a position. So, Diane can talk more about this, but she did an analysis on our cash transactions, and it would not cost us that much to actually round down on those transactions to the nearest 5 cents. So it's just not worth the fight.
Yeah, it's just not. So it basically what we'll do is we'll just write off. When you're talking a penny to 4 cents on just cash transactions, which are, I think for most of us, most of our transactions are electronic at this point.
Yep.
So you're going to start that July 1?
It's routing for signature right now. So
well,
okay.
if there's pennies there, then you don't round.
Correct.
If we do have pennies available, you're not going to round. So it's
Right.
gonna, but yeah, it's going around.
The bank stopped giving it to us.
Right. I know one thing we're doing right now. Some of my revenue specialists, is when someone comes in to pay, and this has been in water sewer bills, is when they pay it. And instead of, if they don't have the exact change, we'll say, well, do you want to just have a credit on your bill? And most of them are in agreement with that. So, okay, yeah, just credit us 3 cents, 5 cents, 4 cents, whatever it is. Um, and I'll just apply it to the next bill.
See, there's another case though for not taking cash, right?
Truce, and that's right. You don't have that issue because you guys do not take cash.
So far, and a knock on wood every time you never know what might change.
Well, it seemed like it would be hard to go back to that after you guys been doing it since for what, 5 years now?
Since COVID, yep.
Since COVID, yeah.
Have you had any type of like lawsuits or anything against you for not being able to take cash?
Nope.
Because we explored that a little bit with one of our agencies, and they were made aware of some type of class action lawsuit, I think, against the state for the state parks, something like that. I could be speaking on that, but we kind of paused on even taking that any further.
Yeah,
Good to
maybe
know.
maybe nobody's thought of that yet. So shh, stop talking about it.
Right.
No, I mean, in the very beginning, it was during COVID. So, everybody wanted as much contactless as possible. So that kind of gave us the ability to have that introduction and then just didn't go back. And initially, it's mainly the people who they're either unbanked or they don't want a record of their money. And so they go down and they get a cashier's check. So that takes care of that. We have 2 agencies in the county that are still accepting cash. And I'm not sure if we'll be able to get them off cash, but if we were able to do that and get everybody on desktop deposit, we'd be able to get rid of our armored car service, which is a nightmare.
Okay, is there anything else for the group that anyone wants to discuss? I mean, we still have about 20 minutes left, and if not, we'll give everyone back 20 minutes for the remainder of their day. Cindy, anything? No?
Nope. I took up enough time.
Okay, well, I have nothing else. If there's nothing else anyone else has, we'll go ahead and conclude today, and then I'll see everyone next month. So, thank you all for attending today, and I will be in touch with everyone next month. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you.
Everybody.
Everyone.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.